Today we're taking a look at 3 new models of acoustic guitars from Fender in their new California Vintage series. We're going to tell you all about them, so stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas, and you can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you are new to the channel, you know what to do. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. If you want to support the channel, visit our Spring store for swag and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. And feel free to send us cash money or food, like a good friend of ours, Paul, did. Thanks for the food, Paul.
Bill Millers.
Yeah, we're going to enjoy some B. Millies, as someone in my distant past, or not too distant past, used to call it. So thanks so much. Today we're taking a look at 3 new guitar models from Fender in their acoustic lineup. And this is a new series for these 3 new models called the California Vintage Series.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, they are cool. I will say that for full disclosure, we got to kind of talk to them about these guitars a little bit beforehand.
We did. Did they ever come out right out and say it was because of maybe a video we did addressing some issues with another guitar that they made?
I don't think so. However, luckily, they were very cool about it. And they're like, we saw that video. And so we got to kind of give our input. And I don't know if any of that input became anything with these guitars, but we both love Fender. Mm-hmm. I play a Fender acoustic myself from the custom shop, and so the kind of love for the instruments was there. Some of their previous acoustics had left something to be desired from both of us. And our new friend Matt over there at Fender, I think this was kind of his
passion
baby.
project?
You know,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like the aesthetic of the old school 60s, like the King, and you know, so those old Fender designs are cool. People like them. People like how they look. But then you go find the actual vintage ones, and they were not built very great. They were super overbuilt, I think. And
they'd have bolt-on necks that were not always sitting very well. And,
yeah. So I know for sure that the guys at Fender went and bought up a bunch of those old guitars and kind of, you know, made these to where they were vintage correct in terms of the shapes and the headstocks and all that, but with kind of more modern build techniques to make them actually playable instruments. And they came out really cool. I think that Fender's acoustics are often misunderstood, or maybe Fender misunderstands their own acoustics.
No, I think that they have that same trouble that some other companies make when you're known for a thing and you try to do something else. It's very hard to kind of make inroads because it gets overshadowed by the thing that you're known for. And, you know, they are known for Strats and Tellys, basically. And so you see it in their electric lineup. We just shot a video today with a really cool Jaguar. And that's a model that gets overshadowed by, you know, its stablemates in the electric lineup. They've done some really cool amps. You know, like they did a high gain amp years ago called the Machete that was a killer amp that nobody bought. Why? Because it said Fender on it. And so I think that, you know, kind of a victim of your own success type thing. But I also think that there's been some inconsistencies in their acoustic offerings. And trying to address that has been interesting to watch at Fender. So check this out. They had the custom shop models like you had, okay? And effectively, those were custom shop guilds in Fender attire, right? And they were very cool guitars. One of the first videos I ever made on this channel 10 years ago almost at this point was on those Fender custom shop acoustics. You've had yours about 10 years, right? I remember when you got it. Yeah. So I thought they were fantastic guitars. I really liked the way they were built. They had one particular dreadnought that was an Engelmann spruce top, mahogany, nitro finished. It was a cool guitar. But they couldn't find the right audience, and they stopped building those guitars, and Guild now belongs to Cordoba and so forth. When they went to
Yamaha.
Which belongs to Yamaha, and the world keeps going around. When they went to look at doing something that was a USA-built acoustic again, they didn't build an acoustic. They did the Acoustasonic guitars. And we saw those initially released to great fanfare and huge success. And so, you know, there's been kind of back and forth with what they've been wanting to do with the acoustic line. The video we did before, where we looked at some Paramounts, we had some criticisms. And I think one of the things that I was told was, because we'd seen some Paramounts come in that were great, and then they got changed, and then they were okay, and then they weren't, and then they were okay. Was addressing not just the designs, but also how they're being built and how they're being manufactured, since they are import guitars. And then, of course, in this particular case, not just the build quality, but the overall design, aesthetic, everything that they're going for is new, and so far so good.
So far so good with these. So we've got 3. Got the Malibu vintage, got the King vintage, and then over here, the one that I was holding at first,
the Palomino.
It's the Palomino vintage. I think this one's the front runner for me to start. I really like it.
Cool guitar.
They've all got a natural and a burst, or different color
it's kind
companion.
of vintage tint.
That's got the vintage tint, and I think that one comes in black as well. This is, I believe, the Sienna Sunburst. But there's a natural, and then on the King there's a natural as well. They've got the old dusty boot.
I like the burst. And I do like this top. This is pretty cool with the gold pickguard.
Yeah, it's nice. So the thing is, I'm right out the gate. I would be hard pressed to ever get 6 on a side on a headstock. I told Matt that, and I was like, I'd like to go 3 and 3. That wasn't going to happen because that's not how these guitars were originally. I like that it's not just normal Strat headstock. It's got the old, acoustic headstock. So it's a little bit different. It looks exactly like the old school ones do. And that, I think, helps it.
You want to get guitar geeky for a bit?
Let's get geeky.
So everyone thinks of this as a Strat headstock. It actually goes back much further than that. Stauffer. It's a German guitar headstock.
That's the first Martin headstock.
Yeah, and all it is a violin headstock turned sideways.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes from, everybody. So I'm okay with it, because I've been in the Martin Museum and I picked up those old
played that Stauffer guitar,
and it had this kind of a headstock on it. So if it was good enough for Christian Frederick Martin, it's good enough for me. I actually like straight string pull headstocks, because you have less intonation issues. You don't have any string crowding above the nut. So I'm cool with it. Visually, it doesn't affect me like it does some people.
Yeah, it's like, if you have this, you got to have this. You got to have the rest of it all the way.
Yeah.
And then you get like a Stouffer's mac and cheese, and then you're all good to go.
If you had put this, to your point, if you had done this styling, which they've done on some other guitars, and the rest really doesn't lean into that history, then it does seem kind of off. But I like this, and it's actually not really, like, it's got its own little shape. The curves are a little bit different in this particular case, and it feels, you particularly notice it on the back when you're kind of in that first position.
Yeah,
you feel the difference on it. So I'm cool with it. I dig it, actually.
Yeah, that was my one thing, but that comes with the California Vintage Series. That's what the look was. That's what it's supposed to be. So I dig it. I'm okay with it. I will also say one thing that we talked about is sometimes there's a man, and that man is wearing, it's 2023. He's got Wrangler Ranchers on. He's got Tacovas on. He might have a Stetson and a Pearl Snap. And interestingly enough, I thought I was going to be working in the warehouse today. I didn't know if we were going to shoot, so I didn't wear my normal clothes.
I was going to say, you're describing yourself on like a
That's
Tuesday.
Usually what I wear. I got jeans and tennis shoes on for the first time in like a year today. Usually that's what I'm wearing. I got Ranchers and Tacovas. Yep. I was on this Zoom call with Matt, and I said, "You're really going for the Ranchers and Tacovas crowd." And I lifted up my leg and showed him my boot, and he had a folded pair of Ranchers and Tacovas. So we're on the same page there, all right? This is for that crowd.
The neo-urban cowboy?
I think it's for the neo-urban cowboy, and here's why I say that, because if you haven't been outside recently, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Country music, not only just Texas, but the California Cowboys, and you got a whole new wave. I think you can look at my favorite guys like Sturgill Simpson, and they're not necessarily those dudes. Right. I'm talking the new school glam cowboys.
Sure.
Like, Midland, Orville Peck, all those cats. This is the kind of guitar that the front man for one of those bands needs to be
Everyone who
playing.
wants to be Charlie Crockett.
Yeah, if you want to be Charlie Crockett,
this guitar is for you.
That's pure Charlie Crockett to me right there.
It is.
And he, I've seen some of these guys, they play a certain look of guitar. I've seen some cool old Taylor square shoulder dreadnoughts out there.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some Fender stuff. I've seen some Guild stuff. But it's not going to be your K24. It's not going to be your, SJ200 or your D35.
It's kind of like
a look.
It's looking for vintage that's different.
Yeah.
Right. It's the going to find the pearl snap shirt, but from the thrift store in the weird color.
Yeah.
It's looking for something that was popular at one point, but is just kind of like you got to be in the know to know about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what this aesthetic leans into. But the guitars back it up.
Yeah.
So, we're going to jump into the specs here, but that aesthetic is spot on.
Yeah.
As to the look of these, which I dig, even though I'm not usually wearing Wranglers and Tacovas. I'm more of a Justin Boot or Ariat or...
you're the working man's boot.
Or Lucchese. Yeah. Well, anyways. So, but I dig these guitars.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, before we talk about specs, I want to talk about construction and just, I guess, first impressions of these guitars.
Yeah.
They feel good.
They do feel good.
The binding feels great. The finish feels good. I had some issues with past, like, those, we did a video on it, a satin finished Paramount where the binding was just sharp. Guitar sounded pretty good, but I didn't want to ever put my arm across it.
Yeah.
The setup's really good on these. For full disclosure, these two, I feel, do have a better setup than the King.
Yeah.
Right out of the box. That probably has thicker strings, which probably has something to do with that. But I mean, for the price point, what they've put out with case and everything, I dig it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they all come with a hard shell case. These are all $8.99 right now, and they've all got solid spruce top and solid oven callback and sides. Yep. I really like this is a small design thing. I like that the end of the fretboard wraps around, like mimics the sound hole because that's how it was, old school style, like the Viking bridge. Mm-hmm. There is a Fishman sonotone in each one of these. So you got the undersaddle and the body transducer. You might hear a little
rattle because
that's the battery.
Batteries unplugged in because there's no holes for your battery.
Yeah.
So you
have
a
little
bag.
Velcro guy. Yeah, battery bag, which I like. I don't want a big
barn.
All
my guitars are.
Yeah, I don't want a barn door. So yeah, I think the fit and finish is good. All solid wood, hard shell case. Pickup at $8.99. This is not an American-made guitar. It's not a North American-made guitar.
Nope.
But that's kind of...
But it's a good. It feels like a good quality import.
With a recognizable name on the headstock, that's the sort of price range that we're working in when you go all solid wood, hard shell case, pickup, and a good-looking guitar. There's some that are a little bit less, some a little bit more, but I think the value is right there, and like I said, for the right kind of person, it doesn't just have to be that very stereotypical Austinite that I just described, or Los Angeles, or even San Antonio now, because we're flooding them. Yes. But it doesn't have to just be that person. But I think it's perfect timing for like how big that kind of subculture has become. Everybody's watching Yellowstone.
Everyone's even eating their avocado toast.
You got avocado toast out on the ranch, and you're still waiting for the Bronco on your wait list.
Oh, you know what? They need to make that a color on like do a Malibu in a weird green and just call it avocado on toast.
Yeah, avocado. There's a soft-boiled egg, and there's probably tahini and some za'atar. They got to make it a little more interesting. A little red pepper flake, But yeah, I think they're sharp, but not physically. Like the binding is nice. No. They're sharp looking. I think they sound good. So I got to play all three of them for you. The Malibu, the Palomino, my personal favorite, and the King. Let's take a listen.
So there you have it. You can hear differences in all three of them. Very distinct tonal varieties based upon the body shapes. And the body shapes is something that we should talk about because this is something. It's definitely not really defined. It is a Palomino body shape. Yeah. The closest I think we have agreed upon is it's kind of like a small jumbo.
Yeah.
Because it's a much shallower waist. It reminds me of something I've seen from like small boutique builders, like luthiers that will come out with some guitars, because it's got kind of a shallow waist like a dreadnought, but it's definitely not a dreadnought.
Yeah,
that's a dreadnought, but it's also got its own lines to it.
Yeah, they're definitely like recreated exactly what they were back then. That is kind of dreadnought jumbo, like the shoulders are kind of dreadnoughty, but it's it's cool. Something we didn't mention. Forward shifted scalp X bracing. These two are 25.5 scale length. The Malibu is 25.
Right, the shorter guitar.
Yeah, which makes sense.
But they all have the same tone woods.
Yeah, spruce, oak, and
but they sound very, very different. The Malibu and the Palomino really have a nice kind of shimmer, nice high end to them, which I would kind of expect from spruce and Ovencall, because Ovencall's a lot like rosewood. You got a lot of lows, a lot of highs, but you have like a nicer, stronger mid-range and those overtones. The King is kind of different though.
Yeah.
It gives you that boxy dreadnought shape sound, but it's also a little darker, a little more lo-fi-ish, a little kind of vintage Gibson-y kind of sound that's going on with it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me because they've kind of described the bracing all in the same breath, and the tone woods are all the same, the body shapes are different. But these are very distinctly different sounding guitars.
Yeah. And I think the sound of this, like you said, it could use a little bit of setup. The sound of this plays into that kind of genre, I think. But that one, like I said, I think that one just takes it for me. I like the different kind of body style, something a little weird. I'm looking forward to seeing the natural version because I like natural guitars, but I think the bursts
I like the burst.
Kind of work on these really well.
And I would never go like, put me a white pick guard on that.
Yeah.
But it works on this, just like with the Malibu. I'd never go, stick me a gold pick guard on a vintage tint top. But it works. Like the overall aesthetic works. None of these, I think they could pull them off on their own, but together, it's a cool vibe.
Yeah, it's a collection. So. And I think the last step, because these are cool. These are definitely cool. I would love to see a version made in Mexico.
Yeah.
Made in the USA.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think these are a step in the right direction, like leaning into the old school charm while incorporating modern kind of techniques.
It'd be really cool, since we're just like dreaming here, is for Fender to go out and find a builder that's really good. Maybe someone who's done some cool stuff in the past and is available, or can be for the right amount of money, to come in and design some really cool American-made guitars like this. It would be a drop in the bucket to their overall thing, but I think having something cool like that with these would just be awesome, you know, and help overall. There's a halo effect that happens when you do stuff like that. So, anyways.
And I'm not saying like do a run of 3 that are at the next custom shop event that are $25,000 that are all hand painted by some guy that does a horse running through a valley. I'm saying do this.
That was a very specific.
You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you mean.
These companies, all right? These companies that we deal with, they're like, man, I would love to see one of those old school guitars come back. And they're like, we did 3 this year for the online custom shop event, and they're $25,000 each, and they're all hand painted by some guy, and he put gemstones and metal work from his motorcycle on there. You know who I'm talking about, all right?
Yeah.
I don't need any flying V's with we'll stop there. I want something cool, and I want Addy top, like rosewood or, mahogany, something cool, like kick them up a bit, keep the aesthetic the same with the mid-century cowboy western Marfa, Texas cliche. It's weird how much.
These are so very specific.
It's weird how much Malibu turns into West Texas in my mind. But we're all out there. They're making.
I know they're called California.
They're drinking.
But they really are West Texas.
This is what was California
Ranch
vintage.
water.
Yeah, it's ranch water. It's yeah, they're doing all kinds of stuff. What was California vintage is now modern West Texas.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Which I'm proud of.
And there you go.
Yeah. So.
Housing market too, same thing.
Housing market, yeah.
Well,
it's because all those California vintages came over here drinking natural wine.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well,
it's the
most we've ever wanted to talk about a new Fender acoustic, and so the deed is done.
I like them. I like
do
them.
too. Yeah. So they did a good job. These are permanent to the lineup. I think, in my mind, they will overtake the Paramounts and all that stuff. I think these will
they
be popular.
should.
Yeah.
I would actually like to see maybe the other California stuff just kind of focus on these.
Yeah.
Focus on the vintage stuff, and then just your normal classic design offerings for the people that need a, kind of budget guitar.
Yeah, and because the classic designs, when people come in and say, I need a guitar for, something real entry level, CC60S is still my go-to. I think that's a great guitar. That's what I like to recommend, or CD60 or whatever it is.
You know what they should do? They should do a 12-string version of this guitar and that guitar.
Yeah.
With like the Fender 12 headstock.
It's interesting because we've been so consumed with these. There are new additions. There is a 12-string. So I think it's the Villager 12-string.
Yeah.
That one will be coming.
But that's not part of the tradition.
That's not part of the vintage.
Right.
But there are some really cool old school, and the current California series that's been there all got revamped. These are samples from Matt that he sent us so we can make the video. So this stuff's going to be coming in, and we'll obviously take a dive into that. But if you like them, if the $899 is too much for you, they have like the Malibus, and you can find something with this aesthetic. It won't be this fit and finish or this quality. I mean, material quality and all that stuff. But there are other options. I think these are the most interesting to me. But some of the 12-string stuff and all that, it'll be fun to get into.
So if you want more information about these guitars, or you want to know when these land, you want to go to our website, which is
alamomusic.com.
And then you want to sign up for our newsletter, so that when these models come in, you will know, and you can go, yeah, I want something that's really cool and quirky, and that is my vibe, and we will ship you a Palomino. So,
grass-fed beef and small batch IPA.
There you go.
That's what you need.
If you're new to our channel or West Texas, make sure that you subscribe, you turn on notifications, you like our videos. You can watch them in Austin too while you eat your avocado toast. And keep coming back, and we will make more for you. We'll see you next time.